Welcome to the Senior Moment podcast, where we dive into topics that deal with seniors and senior living. If you are a senior, work with a senior, or have a senior in your life, this is the podcast for you. You never know what topics will be discussed in each and every episode. Hosted by Cindy Cannon and Brady Tabbs. This is the Senior Moment podcast. Welcome. We are excited to have Jill Ertl with us today. Jill is with the iMove PT. Jill, why don't you start off and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Jill, and I'm a physical therapist. Like she said, with iMove PT, I've been a physical therapist for nearly 25 years now. I graduated from St. Louis University, a bachelor's degree in exercise science, and then a master's degree in physical therapy. And then I went on after I started working as a therapist and got my doctorate in physical therapy as well. Most of my experience over the years is in more the outpatient orthopedic setting, dealing with orthopedic injuries, pain, things like that. It's just been the last 6 or 7 years that I've transitioned to specialize a little more in seniors.
So first of all, Brady, before you jump in and ask her about her organization, Dr. Jill, I have never called you Dr. Jill.
No, and you
I
don't
mean,
have to.
I see you all the no, I'm going to call her Dr. Jill. I
Sounds
had
like a
no
show.
idea that you had a doctorate
Yes.
in physical therapy. I mean, I always definitely, I think Brady can attest. I always am like, somebody's got to talk to Jill about that. Like, we know that you're just exemplary in what you do.
Oh,
So,
well, I appreciate that.
yeah, I mean, you're just great. You've worked here with Villa Rose residents for some time, and we definitely can tell a difference when you work with somebody versus maybe somebody else. And
Oh,
so we definitely, but I had no idea
yeah.
that you were a doctor. I'm going to start calling her. Dr. Jill.
No, you really
Oh
don't
yeah,
have
I
to.
really am. My mic is falling apart. Brady, can you right there by your thing? Just kick it there. Okay, it's really just a conversation. All right,
Dr.
perfect.
Jill sounds like a weekly show.
I
doesn't
know
it?
it does.
kinda
Have you
does, doesn't
thought
it?
about Dr. Jill, Dr.
No.
Phil? Um, I really, yeah. Okay, sorry. See, you just never, I mean, we've worked together for a long time. We've seen you
Right.
here, but there are some things until you sit down, and you have this conversation, you have no
Very
idea.
true.
So, wow, that's exciting. Okay,
Can you give us a brief description of iMove PT?
Yeah. So iMove PT is it's been a really amazing company to work for because it's an outpatient physical therapy company, but we're mobile. So we can treat people, we can go into facilities like this, treat someone in their home, we can treat someone, meet them at the gym or their office. Um, but it really sets us apart from, there's a lot of confusion between what we do versus home health therapy. So a home health therapy agency that comes in, their goal is to kind of get the person to no longer be homebound. So they have their goals are very different than the goals that we can address. They're usually only in for a few weeks, whereas we can address more of the long term goals and we can stay with someone a lot longer. Also, it's great because we can see the person in their home setting, so there's a lot more functional carryover. No more simulating things in the clinic. I can remember working in the clinic and a patient trying to describe to me how their room is set up or, getting out of their bed, and I don't have to try to simulate that anymore. I can just, I'm right there, in the home setting. So a lot more functional carryover for that reason. Also, all the therapists with iMove have experience in the outpatient orthopedic setting. So we're stronger in our manual therapy skills, a lot better in treating pain than a lot of your home health therapists are going to be, where they're more just, like I said, I mean, they certainly have their role, but their role is to get the patient where they can transfer over to outpatient therapy.
right,
So
absolutely.
just different goals and different roles for the both, but there's always confusion, between what the difference is with a home health therapist versus
Yeah,
us.
I was going to say,
Mhm.
I guess I can think of some differences that I've seen too. I mean, we definitely have had residents that have been struggling with specific situations in the bathroom, getting into a shower or whatever, and you've been
Sure.
able to kind of work with them and give them some little tools or techniques, which does make total sense, right? when you are in a facility, you
Right.
don't have the ability to utilize exactly the setting, right?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I can see where it
There's
makes a
also a
big
difference
difference.
in the way it's billed. Home health therapy is still under Medicare Part A. It's considered more hospital-based, and then outpatient therapy is Medicare Part B.
Okay.
So, yeah,
All
so
right.
there's a
So
difference in
there
how
is
they're
a
billed as well.
difference. Okay. So a little more concentrated too. Do you guys come in and spend more time than a home health?
Yeah, for
Okay,
sure,
that's
for
what,
sure.
yeah, because
Yeah,
I know typically we see you 3, 4 times a week with specific people and somebody
yeah,
else maybe 1 or twice a
yeah.
week,
That's
and
another great thing is, this organization, we are scheduled one-on-one therapy for a solid hour with each
okay.
patient, an hour or more. If our schedule allows it and the patient needs it, we can see them for more than an hour.
Yes,
Um,
and that's what I noticed the time.
yeah,
So, I'll see you walking in a hall with a resident. You're really you seem to be able to invest in getting them to an independent state, which us being independent living, it's what we want for all of them,
exactly.
right? We
Yeah,
want them to be as independent as long as they can. And sometimes they have an episode occur in their life, whatever that may be, whether it's a fall or an illness that has caused just overall weakness and trying to get them back. And so I definitely notice that you are able to spend a little more concentrated time than most, which is why we often do refer to
that's one of the things that I like most about working for iMove PT is I'm one-on-one with one patient. In the clinic, that hardly ever happens. Usually the therapist is juggling 2, maybe even 3 people at the same time, you
right,
know, um, and that's just because that's the way the system is set up.
right.
But yeah, it's nice to have that one-on-one for a solid hour with every patient.
How long
And
have you
just
been with iMove?
3 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
All right. I'm glad that I'm glad we've all connected and it's been a good
Yeah, it's been
interaction.
really nice working here too. I mean,
Good.
I sing praises of this place all the time. I think it's just
Oh,
a
thank you.
really great, great setup for independent living, but also offering kind of the a la carte sort of stuff where
Mhm.
they can pay for the extras without having to.
It's unique.
Yeah, it is. I don't know of any other facility that has this sort of setup. It's either
It
assisted
is.
living or
Yes.
independent, but this is
Yes.
kind of bridges the gap where you can kind of be independent, but
Get
just
assistance if
get
you
the
need
assistance
it.
that you need, but
And
not pay for it if you don't.
right. And,
So,
if you only need it for a month or so, you may need it for a month or so. It is very unique. I always say
yes,
it's like one of the best kept secrets that people don't even
I
realize,
agree.
or they drive by and they really don't even understand what we do.
Right. I
It is
totally agree. Yeah.
definitely, yeah, yeah. And it was so ahead of its time anyway. We're just talking, we're going to celebrate 40 years. It was just so ahead of its time that it
Yeah.
really, we still hear the nursing home. It's like that. Wait a minute,
Not a nursing
not
home.
even, not a nursing home.
Right.
40 years is a long time. Again, it kind of ahead of itself, and we're just happy that we've served so many seniors here, and we hope that, as time goes on, we just continue. We see generations come in, and we love the fact that we're, helping those local in the area. As we just move on and talk, Jill, what is one of the most important factors for seniors to consider when they're trying to stay independent? I mean, that's the goal,
Yeah,
right? So,
exactly. Well, I mean, there's many things to consider, but like balance, just staying active generally, meeting your social needs, safety awareness. But if I have to choose the single most important factor, I would say it's strength.
hmm,
And we start to lose about 10% of our muscle mass every decade, starting as early as in our 40s. And this, of course, can be prevented or at least slowed down as we age with proper strength training. And there are actually studies that have looked at patients who have been hospitalized following a fall.
hmm.
And what they were looking at is what did all these patients have in common? And the one thing that they found was they all had weakness, muscle weakness, and particularly in the quadriceps muscle, which is that big muscle in the front of our thigh. So it's really important to really hit hard on strengthening that muscle in particular.
So tell us, what are some of the exercises that you recommend for, we've talked a little bit about building strength. And so, what are some of the exercises that you recommend seniors do to help strengthen those leg muscles?
Yeah, that's a great question. I like to really hit that quadriceps muscle that I was speaking of. It's so important to keep strong. I like to really hit that hard. There's a few exercises that I do routinely with my patients. My goal is always for them to be able to work towards and eventually be able to stand up from a chair without using their arms. Um,
And I can do that.
you can do that.
I can do that. I'm gonna have to remember that.
Yes.
I'm gonna try when this is over.
Yeah,
Okay.
you'll try.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll see if you can
perfect.
do it when you're 80
All
though.
right. Okay.
Um, so yeah, most the residents here probably cannot do that. There are some that can, but most cannot. Um, that's something that I work towards, and there's a few things that I have them do to work towards that. A lot of them are things that they can do on their own. It doesn't require me to be with them. Um, the first thing is, so someone will have the ability to sit down controlled without their arms before they'll be able to stand up without their arms, without pushing on that armrest. So I'll tell them, use your arms when you're standing up, but when you go to sit, of course, reach back and make sure the chair is, where you think it is for safety concerns. And then work on lowering yourself slowly and controlled. Um, Another thing that I have them do is I'll elevate the surface. So we'll put cushions or pillows in their chair, however many we need to get them high enough that they can stand without their arms. And then we can do lots of reps in that fashion. And then the third thing I like to do is I tell patients every time you stand up or sit down, do it a second time. So if you go down to the dining room and you sit down in the dining room chair, before you scoot in and get ready to eat, stand back up and sit back down again. And if you do that throughout the entire day, you're doubling your number of reps of sit to stands that you're getting. And over time, it's going to make a big difference in your lower extremity strength. So those are the biggies. Ways that seniors can, stay physically active is just really trying to make exercise a priority and a regular part of their daily routine and schedule. And little things like if they go out, take the long route. We're always thinking, oh, we got to get the closest parking spot. We don't want to have to walk so far. Kind of get out of that mentality and park further away. Challenge yourself. Make yourself walk. If you can do stairs safely, use the stairs instead of the elevator. That's I definitely encourage that as long as it's safe. Um, but yeah, so those are some of the little tips that I do go over a lot with of my patients.
So you were talking about physically active. First of all, I'm going to do a follow-up question to your stand-up question. Is that normal for most people in their late 70s to early 80s to struggle to get up? Because I know you
Um,
said the majority of the building probably couldn't do it. Is that
yeah.
normal?
I would say it's probably more the norm, but I also have a lot of patients in their 70s and 80s who can do it, no problem. But I tend to see the patients who have the weakness, which is why they're seeing me. So
Correct.
I think I'm a
Okay.
little skewed in what normal is
Well,
because
I
I
do.
don't.
I think. I mean, I think the younger generation is more aware of their physical, well being. I mean, I think that we definitely especially the next generation is really active, right? So
Yes.
they're the ones that are going to the gym. They're the ones that are wanting to be healthy, right? So it's interesting because I've talked to the kitchen manager, in the next 20, 25 years, the menus here will look completely different, right?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Be much more health conscious.
correct, because these people still want those comfort foods.
Mm,
But the next generation is going to definitely
that's
be
so
more,
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
health conscientious. And I think that the next generation just physically is also more aware of trying to stay healthy. And so I wondered, is that the normal? Is that I can see where it is, but I mean, I know you're always going to have a portion of people that are
Right.
definitely. You were talking about walking, I was going to say so this is a big building. It's like 119,000
Oh,
square
yeah.
feet. It's like,
Great opportunities for walking in this building.
and great hall space. Don't you love the
Absolutely.
White
Yes.
Halls? I know they're wonderful, but
Yeah.
we have had residents that have tried to shy away from an apartment, kind of away from the dining room, right, because of this walking ability. And I can't tell you how many times I've used, listen, you may struggle. You may struggle for the first month, but
It's going
every
to make you
day
stronger.
it is.
Absolutely.
Every day you're going to get stronger because you do it. And especially if you do it 3 times a day, there and back, it will by far make you stronger. We had a lady, so I've been here almost 6 years. We had a lady in her 90s, and she moved out for a very short time and moved into kind of a high rise setting and ended up moving back 3 months later. And the reason that she moved back, she didn't walk to the dining room. And then all of a sudden, in 3 months,
She got weak.
she couldn't hardly walk.
I think I know who you're talking about.
I'm sure you do. I bet you do too. And so I remember her saying when she came back, I think the aides had to follow with a chair for her for the first week and a half.
Yeah.
And then she had it.
And then she got strong again.
She got it strong again. And
Yeah.
that was her number. She said, I went from the kitchen to the bedroom or to the living room. And I, I didn't leave my apartment. People don't realize the impact it just, walking. We have quite a few seniors around here that just walk the halls or they're trying to get their steps in and which is great, but it does make a difference, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Use it or lose it.
Yep. Yeah, very true.
It is really.
And it's nice because there's benches all over the place. So there's always a place to stop and rest if they need to.
There is, absolutely.
And most of them use rollators, which they can also sit on and rest if they're taught how to do it correctly.
Yeah.
Which is, in case you all don't know, I always tell them push the rollator into the wall.
Okay.
Then put the brakes on, then sit. Don't sit on it just out in the middle of nowhere because
and that way it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. So when they go to stand up, it's not sliding because those brakes stop the wheels from spinning, but they still slide on carpet. So,
right. And if their movement just
if they're weak and they go to push up and I've seen that. So I always teach them to push it against a wall before they sit.
That does make total sense.
That's a good
it's
point.
Not going anywhere. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we've already kind of touched a little bit on how do they stay physically active.
I was going to say, I think she covered that question.
The walking and it was really interesting. We did a podcast was it January when we were talking about like exercising and staying fit?
I believe so.
And do you remember that statistic about walking? If you walk like 4,000 steps a day, it reduces your like 70% like prolongs your health, like or your life expectancy. It's like wild.
Yeah.
Like it's like if you get, are you going to look at that statistic up for me since I know that I know somehow what it says?
Right. Something like that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was January. Yeah.
It was January
we started
that we
the
did
year with
that,
some.
but I believe it was like walking daily increases your life expectancy. There we go. Daily
Makes
walking.
Sense.
It was phenomenal. I mean, when I read that, I was like, there you go. Oh, look in the US or in older adults even. Okay. Do 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 do.
That's
There
where
we
it
go.
becomes challenging though.
There we go.
What does it say?
Walking 160 minutes per day could potentially add 5 to 11 years to a person's life expectancy to AI. And there was actually, I read a whole article about it and they just talked about all the benefits to walking, but 160 minutes a day, really, it's really nothing when people really think about it. If you just accumulate all your time you're getting up and walking, there we go. What else? 25%. I calculate my steps. Do you do your steps?
Used to, but
No.
I don't now.
Brady, do you do your steps?
I don't, but I do walk a lot. I tend to walk.
Yeah.
I may buy one of those rings and I'll find out.
That may be the article. Click that. I think it was 100. Was it daily, really? Because I think it was per week. I think it was Healthline.
Does your ring tell you that?
I have one of those
Steps?
Aura rings. Oh my goodness. It is amazing. I'm going to tell you, I know there's like millions of people listening to us and Aura would need to give me some kind of some kind of credit for selling millions of rings. But, you probably know I am a little bit of a health nut. I mean, I exercise, I try to eat right, but I've always done like Fitbit. For the most part, I always did a Fitbit because I felt like it was more accurate than like the Samsung watch.
Right.
But my daughter got an Aura ring and she convinced me that I should look into it because she knows and it's much more accurate.
Is it?
So interestingly, I went for my like yearly checkup and my doctor was blown away at the health data. So first of all, it can tell me when I've spiked stress. It constantly monitors my heart rate. So You will be happy to know, I'm gonna use her name on this, but, there was one resident in this building that got an Aura Ring
I know who it
all
is.
before we know that
Mm,
healthy little girl. Um, and so she has one, right?
yes.
So, actually, there's quite a few of the staff, but it's interesting that I don't work out as much as I used to. I used to work out probably 5 nights a week, and now I'm lucky if I get 3 in because of the other business that keeps me busy in the evenings. But, it tells me, like, my cardiac health is 4 years better than my age.
That's awesome.
So it can track all those things
Yeah,
that, so, I mean, I think it's great that Alice has one because, she tries to be accountable for some of her steps.
she does.
And I love that because, well, she has the mindset, which is a big part of it, right?
Mm,
If you have the mindset that you're going to set your mind to doing it and you're going to do it no matter what. So, I mean, that makes all the difference in the world.
yes.
And even for the seniors in this building, we can tell you when they're going to come back and make it and they're going to fight back to get to where they were. And then there's also those that they just kind of give up, right?
Yeah.
They don't have any drive to do it. But
My mom is a great example of this. She got an Apple Watch right as the pandemic was beginning. I'm telling you, this Apple Watch changed her life. Like, she tracks everything on it. When it tells her to stand, she stands. I don't care if she's in the middle of, she stands. "Oh, my watch is telling me it's time to stand." Make sure she closes those rings every day, and
yeah, that's great. That's
yes, I mean, her
fabulous.
health just skyrocketed after she got that watch. So some of those tools really can be effective.
Right, so I do think it makes you aware. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I feel like, it makes me aware of, I mean, there are days that, I don't feel like doing, I'm just kinda having a lazy
Yeah,
day
I
or
wanna tell my
whatever.
watch to shut up. Yeah.
Right, those are those days, but then you have a day where you had do 15, 16,000. You're like, "Yeah, I kinda blew away my goal today." My goal is 10,000,
Yeah.
but
And it
most
averages
days.
out.
Right, it does. So most days I hit it without any issues at all, but it's interesting. There are residents here like 5,000 is my goal. I just love it. I'm like, good for
Yes.
you. I mean, that's a
Yes.
good goal for you.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I do love that we have some residents that are health conscientious. And I do think that's a big part of it is if you want to move, and you want to stay moving,
You gotta move.
you gotta move. You just have to move. And
So
I
true.
think the older I get, maybe the more I realize that too.
Yes.
I mean, unfortunately we're not getting any younger. And
Don't
your
look at me
body
and say that.
I'm
No.
sorry, Brady. We're close in age. Okay, so what about the biggest challenges? What are some of the biggest challenges that seniors
Oh,
and mobility?
I mean, the biggest challenge I would say is definitely falls, and everything that comes as a result of falling. The biggest challenge as a therapist, is the fear of falling that comes after a fall takes place, okay? Because what happens when they have fear of falling, they start self-limiting. They quit moving so much, and we know what happens when you quit moving, you become weak, right? Plus, you're fearful, which also makes you more likely to fall. So you're fearful, you've lost strength, which we talked about is the most important thing in preventing falls is your strength. That fear of falling is huge. Another thing that this is a reason why I don't treat all balance impairments the same is because everyone has their own experience that it's affected their confidence. Confidence is huge, and safety awareness is huge in preventing falls. So let me give you an example. I've had patients who actually I test their balance and they test pretty darn well. Um, but they're not moving hardly because they're so scared, right?
Mhm. We
They
see
have
it.
they have 0 confidence, right?
Yep.
So there's not there's no correlation, between their confidence and their actual, balance, right? You can have just the opposite too. I've had patients who, um, have 0 safety awareness, their balance is bad, um, but they have no safety awareness. They're overconfident. These are the people that fall all the
Mm.
time. These are the people that think they don't need their walker. They don't, I don't need a
Mhm.
cane. And so you have to treat these people differently. The one who's lacking confidence, whose balance is not too bad, I want to challenge her confidence and show her, You can do this. So we're trying to build her confidence
Right.
to make,
Absolutely.
yeah. Whereas,
Mhm.
Mr., whatever, who falls all the time because his safety awareness is so poor, I'm going to try to show him where his impairments are. Show him, you are not safe doing this. So it's completely different how you treat people with a balance impairment based on their confidence and safety awareness, really. So,
Wow, that I was gonna say, I was sitting here thinking just of resident after resident that
yes.
falls into one of those
Yeah.
hats.
Yeah. It
Do
does.
you
It
think
seems like
they're
it's kind of one or the other. And the people, someone can have really poor balance, but really good safety awareness, and they
Uh-huh.
don't fall,
Yep.
because
Mhm.
they know their limitations. They know how to be safe. They know,
Right, they recognize
they
it.
recognize it. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then you could have just the opposite where they just are not aware at all of what their impairments are and fall.
Yeah.
So
I was just gonna ask, do you think the people that leave their walkers or their cane, are they embarrassed by that, or do they just really think they don't need it?
I think they think they
They
don't
just don't
need it.
need it.
Yes.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
they don't really think about it. A lot of times, or it could be, some cognitive deficits beginning, or where they just park it and walk away from it, and that's something I deal with a lot. This is when you're going to fall. It's when that split second where you think, "Oh, I just went to the bathroom real quick." Well,
Right.
guess where most falls occur? In the bathroom.
Yes.
So teaching them
Mhm.
to not just take it to the bathroom and park it, which is what a lot of them do, and then they walk in the
Right.
bathroom.
They
Teaching
do.
them how to take it in the bathroom, how to turn it, how to use it while you're sitting on the toilet, and how
Right.
to use it when you go to the sink to wash your hands, and, yeah, because that's definitely a problem. People walk away from it.
Coming from rehab too, you're not supposed to get up without pulling the light and getting somebody to help you, and there's people over the years that just feel like they can still do it on their own
Right.
and is dangerous.
Yeah, it goes back to that safety awareness.
Well, and I think it was a good point that she brought up about the cognition ability, because I think back to my dad who was having, I mean, we knew there was a neurological issue going on, but it affected his balance first. It affected his mobility. We had no idea that we had some frontal temporal dementia going on, but we were doing some staggering with our feet, and he was like adamant in his mind. He thought he could do it all day long,
Yes.
and he kept falling. But in his mind, listen, at the very end, when they were using a Hoyer lift, he would still tell you that he could walk across the room, right? So I think that could
Mhm.
also be a sign, because now I look back and I think, well, that was a sign
Right.
that there was something not processing
Yes.
correctly. And there was probably some cognitive disconnect there,
Absolutely.
but we
And
weren't.
usually I think there is in those types of people, there
Yeah.
usually is a cognitive disconnect when they.
Mhm. And we do. I mean, we all shy away from it. I mean, we do. We think, they're getting older. It's no big deal, right? They just didn't
Yeah,
really think that through or whatever. But a lot of times there's a whole lot more going on there.
exactly.
My grandma used to say, she had dementia. It wasn't what your dad had, but I remember she used to say, "They won't let me walk. They just won't let me walk."
Yeah. Yeah.
And she couldn't
Uh-huh.
walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, I was gonna say, like I said, even dad completely lost all mobility, but in his mind, he'd tell you he could get up and walk across the room. And I'm sure in his mind, he thought he could walk across the room, right? Like
Yes.
it was, I mean, I'd go visit him and I'd be like, what did you do today? And he's like, well, I went and fed the cows and I drove the gator here and there. And I was like, I love that's what you're doing every day. That's what you're doing in your mind. You're doing
Exactly.
that.
Right.
And that's perfect. Yeah. So, but I think back and it was really interesting. His journey, my dad's journey was very long and it was very drawn out. It took us, we promised him we wouldn't give up till we figured out what was going on. There was a doctor very early on. My sister and I reflect back on this. And so, I had this video of my dad walking across, my dad farmed. So I have this video of him walking across a hayfield. And then all of a sudden, 2 months later, he can't hardly walk. And they couldn't really tell us why. Nobody could really tell us why. There was a doctor at St. Luke that thought maybe something was going on with his spine, his back. And so we had to go see a neurosurgeon. And she said, I don't think it's a back issue. I think your dad's got a cognitive issue. We were like, what? Like we were totally, and we didn't accept it. We were like, what? He's fine. He's been fine. We were thinking, okay, it's, she was right. She was right. And it took us another year and a half so as time went on, we seen more and more and more. But we actually ended up at Mayo Clinic where he got completely diagnosed. So he had hydrocephalus, but it was congenital.
Okay.
And so we wanted to blame a little bit of the walking on that. So anyway, it was a long, crazy journey, but we ended up going to Mayo Clinic, and it was really interesting. Once it was discovered, then gosh, have you ever been to Mayo Clinic?
Mm-mm.
You go there and shotsy doctors, and these guys know what they're doing. And it's like, so they could do a test to show the shrinkage of the brain. And so you're looking at it on a screen. It wasn't black and white. It was green and yellow. And you can't deny that, right? So you see it, and then it really kind of all starts sinking in. And then you start noticing it all.
Yes.
It's like, oh, it was there and we missed it. But anyway, but it all started with mobility. So shuffling of the feet and then complete loss of. Interesting. Do you think shuffling of the feet is genetic?
No.
Okay.
No.
Why do you think people shuffle their feet? Because we see a lot of seniors do that.
Weakness, but it can also be a neurological. I mean, with Parkinson's disease, that's a very common,
So they thought he had
very common
Parkinson's.
sign
Yeah,
of
they thought.
Parkinson's
Yeah,
is
they
that
thought.
kind of shuffling, the slow, quick steps.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I didn't mention that earlier. I am also LSVT Big certified,
Okay.
which is a kind of the hottest gold standard treatment for Parkinson's
Parkinson's,
disease too.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should have mentioned that earlier, but
Yeah.
but yeah,
I've been
shuffling
there.
is huge with Parkinson's, or Parkinsonism might not be
Right.
formal
Right.
Parkinson's
So
disease, but
So that's kind of what they called it, Parkinsonisms, because but the carbidopa didn't really work for him.
yeah.
So that was kind of the sign. That was the telltale sign. It's probably not
Sure.
Parkinson's. So yeah, but we went down that road. Interestingly, he had a walker with the light.
Yes.
So that worked for him. So if he could focus on the light, it was a little rough if we went outside because you couldn't hardly see the light.
Right.
But in the house, I could still get him to walk around the house if he could focus on the line.
On the little laser.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It was the coolest thing. And we so when I was in home care in Springfield, there was an equipment company we worked with, and she was the one that told me that they were using it with a lot of Parkinson.
Yes. Was it the U-step?
Uh-huh, that's exactly what it was called,
Yeah.
yep. And boy, it was cool, and it did keep him. My mom was like, "Oh my gosh, this is a miracle." Like, he
Yeah.
can literally, as long as he could focus. Now he could start looking around or talking to somebody, and then we'd go back to the legs.
shuffling,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, but if he could focus on that,
Yeah.
then he could. And I was like, "Wow, that is amazing that the brain," we don't realize the brain processes all of that movement, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm. It is kind of, it's a little crazy, isn't it? How it does. It just affects everything. Mm.
Okay, well, how can people connect with iMove PT or yourself?
Well, our website is iMovePhysicalTherapy.com. So you can visit that. My email is jill@iMovePhysicalTherapy.com. That's simple. You're in the building. I know Carrie, the wellness director, has a lot of my business cards.
She does.
So she can hook you up. But yeah, those are probably the best ways to contact me or iMove PT.
I was gonna say, I really appreciate you coming in today. I couldn't give more acclimates to what you do. You just do a great job. We just see such great results with our residents. So thanks for keeping them as independent as possible. On a personal note, thanks for teaching my massage therapist some great moves, because I definitely get taken advantage of
Oh, yeah.
once a month from that. She often does remind me that working with you at the Bunker Hill Therapy, you taught her so
Yes.
much.
Those were
So
the good old days.
those were the good old
Yeah.
days. Yeah. So she does often say she learned so much from you. And I definitely can understand that, and I do get the benefit of it.
Well, that's great.
So I was gonna say, I almost say it's like a medical massage. It's just fantastic, and for someone who, doesn't have a stressful job at all.
Right, uh-huh.
It's very nice to go
Yes.
every 4 weeks, but we appreciate you coming in.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, thank
It
you.
was my honor and pleasure.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Next time.
Thank you for listening to the Senior Moment Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, we invite you to like, follow, and share wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. We hope you'll join us next time. Take care, everybody.